To graph more general polynomial functions, we will need to know the graphs of the function ax to the power n, where a is not 0 and n is a positive integer. Because this function is formed by multiplying x to the power n by a, to get the graph of f of x equal a times x to the power n, we'll take the graph of y equal x to the power n, and we'll stretch or compress this graph if a is positive, and we stretch or compress this graph and reflect about the x-axis if a is negative. So let's look at the examples. The first function is 3 times x to the power 4th. So we'll start with the function y equals x to the power 4th, and then we multiply x to the power 4 by 3, and that means that we'll have to geometrically stretch the graph 3 times. So to graph it, we'll graph first the function x to the 4th, points -1, 1, 0.00 and 0.11 are on this graph. For -2, the value will be value is going to be positive 16 outside of the picture. So we'll graph this function. This is the graph of x to the 4th. Now to stretch this graph 3 times vertically, we'll have to multiply y coordinate of every point on the graph of the basic function by 3. So 0.00 will stay where it was. Point -1, 1, if y is multiplied by 3, will end up with the point -1 and 3. And 0.1 is going to be transformed to the point 1 and 3. And the graph is going to be stretched. This is the graph of 3 times x to the 4th. Now for the function -2x to the 5th, we'll start with the graph of the function, basic function, which is here x to the 5th, and then we'll stretch it 2 times, so we'll end up with y equal 2x to the 5th, and then we'll reflect it about the x-axis to get the -2x to the 5th. So this is the vertical stretch, and the other transformation is reflection about x-axis. So let's start with x to the 5th. Point -1, -1 will be on a graph, 0, 0, and 0.11. For x equal -2, value is going to be -32, way below what is available here. So the graph looks like the graph of the cube function. This is y equals x to the 5th. Now we'll stretch this graph 2 times. So every y coordinate is multiplied by 2, and therefore we'll have the graph that is stretched, and this is the graph of y equals 2x to the 5th. And now we'll reflect this graph about the x-axis, so the point -1, -2 will reflect to be point -1, 2. 0, 0 stay where it was, and the point 1 and 2 becomes the point 1 and -2. And the graph is going to be like this, reflected x to the 5th, and this is going to be y equals -2x to the 5th.